Cassandra Bjorg was born in 2000 in Atlanta, USA. As a child, she had behavioral problems that worsened during adolescence. Her mother, Amanda Sterling, received constant complaints from her school about her bad behavior. The girl mixed with bad company and constantly got into serious trouble. Amanda was in despair because the upbringing of her 15-year-old daughter was out of control. So in October 2015, she decided it would be best for the girl to move in with her grandmother Wendy and grandfather Randall, both 61, in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Neighbors described the elderly couple as quiet, friendly, and respectful people who usually walked their dogs, rode their bikes, and always had a kind word and smile for everyone. After moving, Cassandra began attending high school, and soon she met Joni Ryder, age 17, about whom little was known. The young people quickly began a relationship, and not much time passed before problems began between the girl and her grandparents. According to police reports, since Cassandra moved in until March 2017, police made at least 31 visits to the family's home, including 18 reports of unruly behavior and at least 8 occasions of elder abuse at the request of neighbors. There were several more calls from people from their granddaughter and domestic quarrels, suspicions of prohibited substances, and legal problems that were responded to on the spot. Cassandra dropped out of school and fell into bad company, which led to trouble with the law, and in February 2017 she was given a probationary period, which became just the beginning of all the hell that broke out in my grandparents' house. On April 6, 2017, Amanda, Cassandra's mother, called the police and asked the police to go to the elderly couple's house to find out if something bad had happened to them. She said that the last person who communicated with them was Sylvia, one of Randall's daughters. Wendy sent her a message that she was going to bed, and that she hoped that everything would get better with time, hinting at the problems that she had with Cassandra. But after that, no one could contact them, and everyone was very worried. The police officers listened to this call and went to the couple's house. They knocked several times, but no one opened the door. They conducted a visual inspection of the house from the outside and did not see anything special. It did not appear that any windows were open or that any of the doors had been forced open, so officers determined that the couple may not be home and left the area. The next day, they began to receive more calls. Many of the couple's relatives were worried, but the police could not do anything about it. They returned to the house and found that there was nothing strange there again, and without immediate danger inside the house, they could not break down the door, so everything remained as it was. Meanwhile, on the night of April 8th, Cassandra and Joni went to the house that the guy shared with his sister Mindy and his mother Tamika. When they arrived at the house, there was no one there. After a while, Mindy returned with her boyfriend Kevin and went to her room. The room was a mess, and several things were missing, so the girl got into an argument with her brother, with whom she had problems in the past. Soon the conflict escalated into a violent fight. Joni sprayed his sister and her boyfriend with pepper spray and began beating them, shouting at the same time for Cassandra to take a baseball bat. The girl went for a bat and hit Mindy on the back and head several times. As a result, the victims managed to escape the attack, and Joni Cassandra fled the crime scene by stealing Mindy's car. Tamika returned home, called at about 8:30 p.m. to report the incident, and took her boyfriend's daughter to a local medical center when officers arrived and found 2 air rifles and a machete in a dog crate in the back of the house, which were collected as evidence. An arrest warrant was immediately issued only for Joni, since the guy's family knew little about Cassandra and gave only a fairly brief description of her. So the police began a search. In front of Joni's house, they found an abandoned car, which, after checking, they realized that it belonged to Wendy and Randall, an elderly couple whose relatives had been looking for them in the previous days, so there was already a well-founded motive for entering the couple's homes, which was done by the authorities. When the officer opened the door, they found a terrible picture inside the house. The bodies of 2 elderly people lay in a state of deep decomposition. It was determined that this was a crime scene, and an investigation began into their death as a double murder. After the discovery of the bodies and the fact that Cassandra was not in the house, she and Joni became the main suspects, and the police began a search. Officers worked around the clock, and finally, in the early morning of April 9th, they found Joni's sister's stolen car in an apartment complex. Police arrived at the address after 9 a.m. The house belonged to a friend of the suspect, who was unaware of the extent of the situation. Security forces surrounded the house and asked both suspects to leave the house through loudspeakers, but they did not listen and barricaded themselves in the house for more than an hour. Then a SWAT team arrived and, using a robotic electronic device, were able to determine that there were 2 people inside the house, and then they took the opportunity by force enter the house when officers entered the house. They found a couple in the bathroom with stab wounds to their wrists. The young people were immediately taken to the hospital. News of the incident leaked to local media, and Officer David Smith of the County Police Department gave some information about the case at a press conference, confirming that the case was being investigated as a double homicide. He also said that one of the victims was found in the bathroom and the other in the hallway, but did not reveal the details of how these murders occurred. Experts have suggested that the elderly people were killed weeks earlier, and the only suspects are their granddaughter and her boyfriend, who may have lived with the bodies for more than a week. In addition, they did not tell that these 2 were involved in the case of violence against Joni's sister by her boyfriend, and explained how they found the elderly people's car near Joni's house, and that because of this they forced their way into the house of Cassandra's grandparents. Officer David Smith believes that Cassandra was a runaway who often ran away from her grandparents' house, and finally said that both detainees were hospitalized because they were unconscious and injured when they were found. The officer also said that Joni's family is helping the investigation, but so far the motive for the attack on his sister and her partner, as well as the motive for the murder of Cassandra's grandparents, is unknown. Monday, April 10th, 2 detectives returned to the crime scene to look for new evidence that would help link the suspects. Joni was released from the hospital that evening and booked into jail on charges of assault and battery, of obstructing a law enforcement officer, theft of credit cards, possession of a tool to commit a felony, breaking into a motor vehicle, and theft. His lawyer, David Whitman, advised him not to testify. It became known that the detainee has police records of an arrest that occurred in October 2016, due to which he was released on bail. The next day, information was released from a forensic examination report on the bodies of the elderly couple, and it was determined that both had died from having their throats slit and that they had various bruises all over their bodies and various injuries. According to the police department, Cassandra and Joni used a hammer, an iron bar, a baseball bat, and several knives to wound and kill the couple. A few hours after this information was made public, Cassandra was released from the hospital and taken to a women's prison, where she was questioned by the police and eventually confessed to everything. She was charged with murder, and the same thing happened to Joni. On April 14th, Cassandra, her boyfriend, appeared before the judge for the first time. Both had bandages on their hands from injuries received before the arrest. The judge read out the charges, which included 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of assault. Subsequently, on April 19th, a preliminary hearing was held at which both defendants were present to hear evidence against them while the police recounted details of the grisly murders of the elderly couple. Cassandra showed no emotion. The homicide detective spoke in detail at the trial about what happened on the night of the murder of Cassandra's grandparents. Managed to do thanks to the detailed confession that the girl gave to the police. She did not say exactly what day it happened, but officials believe it happened between the 1st and 5th of April. Cassandra said that they decided to decide the lives of her grandparents because they were very strict people and she did not want to live by their rules. Therefore, on the night of the murder, they did not wait until all the lights in the house went out, a sign that her grandparents were already lying in bed and in a vulnerable position. The first to be attacked was Rendell. Joni hit him with an iron rod, then Cassandra grabbed her grandmother, dragged her into another room and attacked her there. After that, they beat them and eventually took their lives. The couple removed the bodies and tried to live a normal life for the next few days. They sealed the doors and windows of the house to prevent the smell from dissipating and so that the neighbors would not notice anything. It was also said that they met their friends in the house, performed food, ordered various things from the service deliveries, went outside and tried to create the illusion that grandparents were in the house. Cassandra even sent several text messages to her mother and uncle posing as Wendy and Rendell. She also admitted that they had plans to kill Joni's entire family, her own mother Amanda. But the guy refused this plan. One of the officers told the judge that the two were cruel. They beat Joni's sister with a bat. The victim had bruises all over her body, and 7 stitches were put on her head. Investigators also reported that while Cassandra confessed everything, Joni didn't say a word to them more than a month later. On June 29th, a grand jury indicted Joni Ryder and Cassandra Bjorg on charges of murder and felonious assault and battery, armed robbery and burglary. Due to the death of Rendell and Wendy during the hearing, District Attorney Denny Porter stated that they would only seek the death penalty for the guy since Cassandra was a minor and legally they could not give her such a sentence. 6 months passed, and on January 29, 2018, another hearing was held in the murder case where everything that the young people had done to the couple was recounted. The officers also said their plans to kill other people could make them serial killers. They stated that both defendants were a danger to society and that they should never go out on the street again. Eventually, Joni decided to break his silence, and at this hearing, he told the court that he was very ashamed of what happened, and he knew that it was not a normal thing to do, and he also apologized for his actions. Cassandra, for her part, said nothing, and, sitting in the dock, did not show a single emotion. Finally, on Friday, February 2nd, both defendants confessed to the brutal beating and murder of Wendy and Rendell. And in April 2018, they pleaded guilty, after which the court sentenced each to 2 life sentences with the possibility of parole after 60 years plus 21 years to be served concurrently with the 2 life sentences. The judge said that this case was one of the worst of his entire career, warned that the behavior of Cassandra and Joni was devoid of any sense of humanity and morality. What do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments and also subscribe to my YouTube channel.